Hey girl, hey, welcome to Let's Talk About It. My name is Kiera, your podcast host, and this is going to be a safe space for honest conversations, real perspectives, and to talk about the things out loud that we typically don't say. So, wherever you are, welcome. Go ahead, grab a seat, get you something to drink, and let's talk about it. Hey girl, hey, welcome back to another episode of Let's Talk About It. Today, we are going to talk about the journey of breastfeeding. So, grab your drink. Today, I have my matcha, and let's talk about it. So, first things first, at this point, Mother's Day would have passed. So, I just want to wish all of the new mommies a happy Mother's Day. So, when it comes to my breastfeeding journey, let's kind of start at the beginning. So, pretty much, I was induced at 35 weeks pregnant. My specific doctor told me that I could start trying to test out my pump, getting used to my pump, actually pumping milk around 36 weeks pregnant. And that was going to be my intention, but God had other plans. So I ended up being induced at 35 weeks pregnant, and I was struggling getting milk. So after I had him, they put us in a room. They put us in the recovery room, and anytime that he needed to feed, they was like, do you want to latch him? So I would try to latch him. I didn't know if anything was even coming out, and I don't think anything was really coming out. And they asked me if I wanted to substitute for formula, and I was kind of hesitant, but at the same time, like, my baby had to eat, so it is what it is. So she would feed my baby. We would still try to latch, and my baby had to get taken down to the NICU. And so because of that, I still wanted to try to get my milk going. And I was getting frustrated at first because I was like, nothing's happening. Nothing's happening. I don't want my baby to get too comfortable with formula to where when I actually want to start breastfeeding when we finally go home, that he's not going to want it. So I kept trying. I would say it probably took me about like a day, maybe, before something started coming out. And the funny thing is, something started coming out before I ever really knew it. So they gave me a hospital grade pump, of course, and it's pumping. Nothing is really coming out. I'm not even seeing like my gold milk come out. I just saw like this little speck of something. And girl, while I thought it was sweat, it wasn't sweat. It was my milk. But that's how my journey started. And eventually I actually started accumulating little by little. I wasn't even making an ounce, but little by little, I started making milk, and I would take it down in these little syringes. They weren't syringes. There was like little valves, and I would take them down to the NICU. Every time I would pump something, and I would send it over, and every day it just gradually became more and more. Baby boy was in a NICU for 5 days. And so by the time that he left the NICU and we went home, he was completely on breast milk and was no longer on formula. Breastfeeding has actually been going really well. I haven't had an issue with him latching at all. He did pretty good with that. I would want to say one time I went to an appointment, there was a lactation specialist that I spoke to, and she ended up telling me, she watched him. She was asking me questions, and then she was like, you can position him more so kind of like almost like under up versus just like on. And it allowed him to get a better grip. And so from there, it became more comfortable. It's to the point where like, I don't even really feel it anymore. So that's how we started our journey with breastfeeding. I was at home with him for about 4 months. So I just latched him. I did try to do the pumping from the beginning. Pumping has always been a challenge. It still is a challenge. And I have an update about that, but they want you to pump like every 2 hours. And when you're juggling a newborn, it's crazy. I don't even know how people think that we're supposed to do it all. Like bathe the baby, feed the baby, change the baby, change us, or wash our own behind, like feed. I mean, like I forgot to eat many of days. It was just a whole lot. And so eventually I did stop pumping because I was like, you know what? I would just rely on him latching. And that was until I needed to go back to work. And so what I decided to do was maybe about 2 weeks before I was expecting to start working, I started pumping again. Started pumping, doing my freezer stash, I'm feeling all accomplished. But then with baby boy, I started noticing like something was wrong with his skin. And so he had a checkup appointment. We checked it out. And then she was like, oh, it's just eczema, babies, they like have like little acne or whatever, and it'll be fine. As long as it's not bothering him, it'll be fine. I'm like, okay, cool. Well, then speed it up almost a couple weeks later, he starts scratching and itching and all this other stuff in his sleep. I'm like, okay, now it's actually bothering him. So let's go back to the doctor and see what's going on. And baby is too young to call out any allergens right now. However, they suggest that it has a sensitivity to dairy. And because he was being breastfed, that means mom has to cut out dairy too. So guess who's been dairy free for like 4 months? I want a pizza so bad, and ranch dressing. So that's how that pivoted, right? So it didn't necessarily change the breastfeeding. However, it made me more aware of what it was that I was, consuming for his skin. I remember one time he had a constipation issue, and I didn't know what to do about it. And I was like, you know what? It was like, 9:00 at night. I was like, oh, I got a bag of frozen broccoli in the freezer. So I went and I warmed it up and I put it in a bowl and I sat there and ate a whole bowl of broccoli. Now, my friend thought that this was disgusting. I like broccoli, so it really didn't bother me. So I'm sitting here, I'm eating this whole bowl, and he actually ended up pooping by like the next morning. It was very disgusting, but I felt really successful. And that was when I really started just trying to that's when I really started paying attention. Like, okay, Kiera, like you need to make sure that you're eating A, B, and C to make sure that he's also getting certain things, because what you're eating is affecting his body. So he was able to have a bowel movement. We were good there. And then now I'm realizing I need to cut back what I'm eating because it's affecting his skin, his body. His body cannot process it right now. So we got to cut it out. So that's that update. So moving along, he's in daycare. I've been staying on top of my pumping. I had a pumping schedule. It was still taxing. It was still like, oh my gosh, I got to sit down for 20 or 30 minutes, or I would wear my wearables, or sometimes my wearables aren't as good as my other ones where I sit down. That's just the thing. But anywho, I ended up pumping. We were doing good for daycare for quite a while. But then I'm getting busy, right? It's like I'm working, I'm trying to juggle so many things. I'm trying to make sure I maintain a household. I'm trying to make sure I maintain my clients, my content, all sorts of things. And some days I would slack. And so that stash of milk that I was making before we found out about the sensitivity, I had it in a bag tied off in the back of the freezer. Well, my baby needs to eat. So I was like, you know what? Let's use, a little bit of this milk and mix it with the other milk and hope he's fine. So I would watch and I would monitor him, and nothing really, happens. And so anytime that I would slack and not have enough milk, I would do the same process. I would take that milk, thaw it out, and then mix it with the other milk. And I kind of did that, did get a little lazy some days, not going to lie, because now I know in the back of my mind, I have milk that I can rely on. But now all the milk is gone. All the milk is gone, and now Kiera has to stay on top of constantly pumping all the time. And so that means if Kiera didn't pump in the afternoon the day before daycare, she has to get up at like 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning to try to pump at least twice before dropping him off for daycare. And I just can't live functional like that. Like I really need to try to get as much rest as I can because I'm always on go. And so recently I've actually been sick for about 2 weeks, and me getting sick is actually very rare. I don't get sick often. I have no idea what happened to me. I'm just going to call it a viral infection. I had a viral infection that had me on my behind for like a week. I mean, coughing, congestion, just just grossness. And I was very, very, very concerned that I was going to pass it off to my son because we are always together on each other. You know, I really wasn't concerned about passing anything in my breast milk because my breast milk creates antibodies and it protects him from sicknesses and stuff like that. And it actually has healing properties when he is sick. However, you know, I just didn't want to get him sick and I didn't know what was going on because I was also exposed to like mildew and mold at work due to a leak or whatever. And I didn't know what was going on. So that had me sick the first week. And then the second week, some bug, you know, some people thought that it was food poisoning. I don't think it was food poisoning because I didn't have any other symptoms other than vomiting and diarrhea. And when I tell you, I do not vomit, like I didn't even, my face got, I don't like throwing up at all. I don't like throwing up at all. I didn't even throw up during my pregnancy. I did one time, and that's because a medicine made me do that. Other than that, I am not the type to throw up. I don't welcome it at all. So I was disgusted. And I can't explain it, but now it is gone. However, I bring up sickness because it was during that time that I realized that being sick affects your milk supply. So here it is. I wasn't pumping consistent enough. My supply was already dipping. Then I got sick. It dipped even lower. And so there was like a day that I had to send him with formula. Luckily, I had formula sitting in the house. It wasn't being used. I sent him to daycare with formula. He did pretty good at daycare. His teacher reported, which was nice. But you know, I was like, oh no, it was just for like this day. Cause she was like, oh, I see that he switched to formula. I'm like, oh no, it's just for today. He's still getting breast milk. It's just for today. I'm just working on my supply. And as the days have gone by, quite honestly, I decided that I'm going to start combo feeding. I'm going to start combo feeding because it is less stress and worry on me about making sure that he has enough milk being pumped every day. That time that I'm pumping takes away time for me to do something else, even if it's just me resting. He drinks it. He's fine. The formula that I picked is close to breast milk, which is why I chose that one to begin with. But I think that'll be easier on me. And I'm actually a lot more okay with it than I thought that I was going to be. Because here's the thing. First of all, let me explain combo feeding. A lot of people, when they talk about combo feeding, they are talking about the fact that they can't produce enough milk to make a bottle. So what they do is that they might add an ounce or two of formula to that particular bottle that also is consisted of breast milk. When I'm talking about combo feeding, I'm talking about sending him to daycare with formula, but when he is home, he is latching and nursing. So he is still getting his breast milk. It's just solely when he's at home. And when he's at daycare, he has his formula. I decided to do this combo feeding, and I think it's going to work out for me. I think it's going to work out really well. I was going to say I'm excited about it. I mean, my baby is being fed regardless. So that's the excitement, I suppose. But I don't have to wake up early in the morning anymore. I don't have to necessarily sit down for hours of a day collectively, you know, trying to pump. And then when I pump, I'm not even getting anything. So I'm extra frustrated because I feel like it's a waste of time. And then he works like clockwork. It seems like every time I sit down to take a moment to pump, he wakes up from a nap and he doesn't let me pump. He wants to be on me, you know? So like now the pump is falling out, or he's picking at it, or, you know, something gets loose and now I'm leaking. It's just all these different things. So I made it to 8 months before I decided to start combo feeding. I only got 4 more months to go when it comes to breastfeeding. And I want to know what you guys' journey were or is with breastfeeding. Did you strictly pump? I know someone who strictly pumps, and her daughter's almost 1. I know someone who wanted to try to breastfeed, couldn't do it, and just decided to do formula because she wasn't producing enough. And then I watch enough videos online to just find people be like, you know what, like, it's just stressful. And I get it. And sometimes people lifestyles don't even allow them to do it. Like women go back to work and their jobs don't allow them like breaks or windows for lactation and all that good stuff. And so it's kind of like they kind of have to give it up because they're not really allowed the time or space to do. So yeah, that is my story about breastfeeding. And I want to know what you guys' journey looks like, what it was looking like, what you, like, how do you feel about combo feeding? How do you feel about, people's perspectives and opinions when it comes to whether you should breastfeed or give your baby formula? You have some people, in my opinion, who take things a little too serious as far as you should be ashamed of yourself. Why would you want to give your baby formula? But honestly, your baby is getting fed, and that's the most important part. So if you are a mom that's currently breastfeeding, struggling to breastfeed, I want you to know that it's fine. Whatever you decide to do, your baby will still be fed. Like your baby will still be happy. It doesn't affect anything. Just pick whatever is most comfortable for you. Speak to your pediatrician if you want to. And just move on. Enjoy that extra time that you get to have to yourself. Enjoy not having to use nipple butter anymore. I can be a little unserious, but yeah, I'm just gonna wrap that up. Thank you for attending and watching this week's episode. It is a little more lax. It's a little bit more of a story time type of vibe. I hope you enjoyed it. Please don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next episode. Bye.